Misfires are running now. Let's go ahead. I was able to get it on film. This is kind of like very random. Midway through diagnosing the misfire issue, it stumbles in the morning time, installs no check engine light initially, and I think whatever I did, I got the check engine light to start manifesting. I'm sure the check engine light's on because how cylinder 5 is populating. Now, just to give you the rundown, there was only misfires on cylinders 1, 3, and 5, and all in the back. Difficult to access. Mind you, I just did a tune-up on this several months ago with spark plugs, wires. I did a time belt water pump, and recently I just did an ignition coil. You know, there was all the misfire because the connector hat broke off really bad. If you know some of these Kias are horrible with the connectors as they age and they'll break. Toyotas will do the same thing. Look at it, we're aggressive now. Cylinder 5 got about 500 misfire counts. Let me shut the vehicle down. This is a 2006 Kia Sportage. It's a 2.7 engine 4-wheel drive model, and mind you, everything I did listed was, you know, past repairs and replacements. And I think what happened, I screwed something up, and I want to document that because this misfire was very difficult to address. I did scope the fuel injectors in the rear bank because I was like, you know what, I might as well replace the injectors in the back, or swap them, not replace them, but just change them and see if the issue moves over, because the rear bank was slightly influenced in driving. From what I noticed, the long-term fuel trims for bank 1 did go up to negative, or go down to negative 13. These vehicles, Kias, will set bank enrichment or lean codes if it's over 16.5. This was it was very close to that threshold. All right. Initially, I'm like, all right, let me try doing something. Bank 1 is at negative 13. Bank 2 is at negative 8. Let me just try cleaning the mass airflow. That did help. That brought the trims up to negative 4. It helped a lot, but that wasn't the problem because I still would see the misfire on cylinder 1 primarily, and 3 and 5. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a bottle here. I got desperate and I had to go old school because I'm like, well, how would I know the injector's leaking, assuming that it's just, you know, giving just a little bit more fuel than what's needed. I'll have to look at it electronically. I did remove the intake, put my borescope camera down there, inspect the injectors. They're fine. Pulled the spark plugs out in the back. They are blacked a little bit. Cleaned those, put the borescope down there to inspect the cylinders. They're clean and dry. You know, I didn't stress about it. So, took the oxygen sensor out, inspected catalytic converter. Catalytic converter looks pretty good. I didn't document a lot of stuff because I'm like, this is going to be a little time consuming because I don't know specifically what's going on, and there's just so many things that could cause rich conditions. And this is just, you know, throw me for a loop. It's not blatant. We do have a misfire that's blatant, and this bottle here, fluid of Purple Power and water, did help me determine what was going on. And I'm hoping that this is correct because I kind of ran out of options. I'm like, all right, I know the timing's right. I know the catalytic converter's not stopped up. The cats are working great. This vehicle has 213,000 miles, I want to say. You get your occasional valve issue where the lifter tick. But other than that, I mean, it's not doing it nowhere near as bad as it used to after doing some maintenance on it. And I just recently did valve cover gaskets a few days ago. But here we are tackling this surge. Okay, it has a surge in the morning and stalls. Surge in the morning and stall. After it warm up for about a minute, don't do it anymore. When they go to a light, periodically, it's very intermittent. it'll have a faint surge. So when you give it gas, it would not take and accelerate. It'll, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. When you give it gas, it'll surge, then it'll accelerate. It wouldn't stall. So we're dealing with a morning time initial startup. It'll just shut down. So when you start up in the morning, I'm gonna try to capture that because it's Christmas Day right now. Part stores are closed, so I'm gonna try to capture that in the morning. As soon as I get up tomorrow, or let it sit for a couple hours, I'm gonna see if it still exists. So when you start up on a cold start, car sitting below 90 degrees, start up, you go to put it in reverse, immediately it'll surge and die out. I managed to do it 3 times a day. Start it back up, let it warm up for a minute. You wouldn't have that problem. Okay. So I did check the fuel system. I pulled the fuel pump relay, put a special relay in there to where I can jump the wires and measure the amp draw. Fuel pump's making 4.5 amps. I did look on Identifix to see if anybody had this issue, case study wise, and what had happened. Somebody had 5 amps on the fuel pump. They replaced it and it made 7 amps. That was their confirmed fix. But here's the thing: the banks aren't extreme. Okay, both banks aren't influenced by this issue. It's just one bank, and that's bank 1. So anyway, I got the misfire to present itself, and like I said, I got desperate, so I started shooting the wires here, the ignition wires, because if you know, if there's an arcing condition, arcing from ignition wires can interfere with various sensors, such as crank sensors, such as the cylinder itself, or other sensors, depending on how the arc is. That arc can jump from one wire to another and cause misfires. And when the cylinder is not supposed to be firing, it could send fire to the combustion chamber. Okay, so, or the cylinder is supposed to be firing could lose its voltage and fire can go to the ground or the frame, and it's not going to fire efficiently, thus causing a misfire. So I think I'm on the track that I need to be to determine what's going on with this parasitic misfire. And I never got that misfire counter to populate as high as it did. So let's start checking that. And again, right now I've used the solution, Purple Power, just soap and water, sprayed it back in the cylinder. I was hoping I would be able to physically see arcing, but whatever happened is populating now. So it's like every time I shot it, it started hitting 1 counter, 2, 3, and if I hit it in the right spot, I'll be able to see it jump on the misfire counter. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna start up, we're gonna pull the code. There should be a code now for cylinder 5 misfire because of how rapidly it was populating, and then we'll go from there. I'm gonna disconnect my oscilloscope because I don't need that, and let's see what we got. Start up here. The check engine light's not on. It has 213,000, so I think I said that. And let's see what our misfire counter is. The misfire counter do start over again once you shut the car down and start it back up, and it is populating more on cylinder 5 now. Cylinder 1 was typically the problem. Let me rev it up, see what happens. Yeah. Now, mind you, I pulled those plugs out and cleaned them, and it was running fine. I just started chasing something else. But as soon as I got that liquid out and started shooting those wires, the misfire got really aggressive. I highly doubt that soapy water wound up getting into the combustion chamber in some form or fashion, because there's no vacuum leaks. This is obviously from the ignition wires. Let's let me, because I don't want to pull the intake off if I don't change the wire, so it's not hard for me to pull the intake off. So let's do this. Let me shoot the soapy water back there. Maybe we can see any type of arcing or misfire, because it's pretty aggressive now. I mean, it could be the new coil pack I put on there. You know, because before I only had mainly the misfire on cylinder 1. Now it's on cylinder 135, but they're all on different. 1, 3, and 5 are all on different coils. This is a waste. I want to say wasted spark setup. Yeah, it is a wasted spark setup. It doesn't have its own individual coils. Let's check some stuff. Well, I do see where I screwed up. Here's cylinder 5 right here. Follow this wire all the way to the back. It is pinched up against the intake. See it down there. So I think I wound up messing up those wires, but definitely spraying it helped a whole lot determine the misfire. I'm going to let me separate them and see if the misfire continues. If I have to just lift the intake up a little bit, all I gotta do is take those bolts out and lift it up, and I can move the wires. So let's do something and try to get those wires out and see if the misfire corrects itself. Yeah, I was gonna hit it with the fluid again until I just wound up seeing that being pinched. I guess whatever the soapy water probably did, it definitely exacerbated the issue. I'm just gonna take the intake up a little bit and just move the wires out the way. Move them back. Yep. I'm gonna be honest, what I didn't do was put a divider down. Well, the old ones that was up there, they were broken up, and I didn't buy any other ones, so I should have put the divider for the ignition wires back in the back there. It would have helped. So that was my fault. It was pinched up against the intake. I got them freed up now. I'm gonna drop the intake and see if the misfire persists or not. More than likely it's going to persist. This is a very weak impact gun. All right, let's see what happens. Yeah, still missing. Should have a check engine light code for it. Oh yeah, the guy had disconnected the intake runner control valve code. That was my fault. I had disconnected when I was trying to figure out where that misfire was coming from. So yeah, cylinder 5 is still populating. We're almost at 200. Yeah, tugging on the wire slowed it down a little bit. I just screwed up the wires in the back. Let me just like get the scanner down here so you can probably see it. It populates. Yep. I broke something. So what I'm gonna do, tomorrow comes, I would love to show you what it was doing in the morning and see if it corrects the problem. So the only thing left to do is to wait till the parts to open tomorrow, throw these wires on here and see if our misfire get corrected. Now, I will say, if it wasn't for soap and water, some purple power, it would not have caused the misfire to become enhanced. and point me to the problem. And I was kind of overly complicating the problem originally, in hindsight, that is. So the wires likely were still defective originally, and me pulling everything back enhanced the problem, moving the wire, manipulating the wire, and on top of that, I wound up pinching the wire against the intake when I clamped it back down. So it good for me, because man, just threw me for a loop. And it makes sense. So like in the morning time, you got condensation that builds up, and with condensation, since just the fluid was a conductor, spraying the wires, or the moist air or condensation resting on the components such as the engine and the wires, caused the misfire to be, I would say, enhanced. And I guess when the vehicle's in an open loop status, meaning the car has not reached optimal temperatures to start monitoring certain monitors like misfires or whatever have you. Usually misfire monitors are initial, and it can do with an open loop if I recall properly, but don't hold me on that. So since the condensation built up on the wires and on the engine, it enhanced the misfire, and it would cause it to stall originally because the car has not acclimated and adjusted to its closed loop running conditions. So I'm thinking that's what had happened. And it makes sense after about a minute, engine starts to warm up, condensation starts to evaporate. It runs okay until it start having those hiccups whenever it decided to. Let me wait till the morning time, show you what it does, and get those wires, and we'll get this fixed. And hopefully it does fix it, and go from there. See you tomorrow. So it's still the same day. It's just been a couple hours later. And I left about an hour ago to go get some food from Sheetz, simply because nothing's open on Christmas Day, and I have to survive off gas station food because I didn't go to the grocery store like a percentage of adults, because it was pretty packed in there. Anyway, let me show you what it's doing. These are PIDs, parameter identifications. This is basically the information that the computer sees through voltage conversions, and we see like the voltage convert over to numerical values. So currently it's 84 degrees from the engine coolant temperature sensor. Air intake temperature sensor is 72 degrees. Just to go over that real quick, no misfire data here present. So I want to show you it's stalling, and that way I don't have to do it tomorrow. And I might just go ahead and pull the intake off real quick right now. It don't take long, like 5 minutes for me to do on this car. So it'll start up, install. Let me show you that. All right, so just FYI, what I was doing, I initially started it up, put it in reverse, and pat the gas. And that initial bog is what I was referring to as the symptoms that it was. Oh, shoot, God damn it. I shut the car off, cleared the PID data like a dumbass. Damn it. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. I know it didn't. Hold on. Hopefully it saved the information, but golly, I was going to describe what it was doing. Hopefully it saved it. Please save some misfire data. Nope. God, that's stupid of me. Anyway, I'll describe and I'll try it again. Maybe I can get some misfire data to show up. Long story short, what I was doing, I start the car up, put it in reverse, pat the gas, just probably about like 10%, 15%, and it would get that initial bog when it would catch and accept the throttle. And it did that for a little bit. That's why every time it would drop in RPM, that was me applying the throttle in driver reverse. So that's what it would do at a stoplight. That's what will happen. That was the complaint with the customer. And that's what I'm speculating is a misfire, because these wires are obviously in the back screwed up because of me. So let me see if I can get it to do it again. All right, wish me luck. I'm gonna start up and put it right in reverse, hold the brake with my left foot and pat the gas. Uh-oh. Okay. He's kind of doing it. Yep, okay. So I wish I could show you the throttle position sensor too. This was not well planned out. I'm giving it a little bit of throttle. If I do it just right, it'll bog. And then yeah, so I'm pretty confident that this will be corrected once I put new wires on it. This emergency brake up so I don't make mistakes. Yeah, I think putting new wires on here is going to definitely fix that problem, because the misfire data, I guess, let's see, yeah, no, it's active. I don't know if that's active from last few cycles and stored, or from what. So I never cleared the code out. Let me pull the intake off real quick, gain access to those wires, and because they got to come off anyway, so I don't have to worry about waiting till tomorrow. I'm just going to pull it off now. Then, I get the wires, throw them on there, and then we'll observe and see if it fixed that initial bog during startup. All right, got the spark plugs out. Also, I pulled the wires, did a resistance test. Resistance tests are very unreliable, so I went on ahead and checked them anyway. They were around 11k ohms to 13k ohms. So I'm not going to break my neck over. I'm still going to replace them anyway because I don't have to go through it again. But this, to be transparent, this was number 5. Remember, it had the worst misfire. What happened when I sprayed that fluid, it saturated that wall, the spark plug, the plug wheel, and likely it caused some arcing conditions. Not a big deal, but I didn't expect that to happen. But one thing I did notice, this does have this little black speck here on number 5. And I don't know, I was questioning, is this was it arcing from there? But nope, I guess not. Either way, what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace those wires and the spark plugs in the back. So they're still in the warranty. Get those out the way and see what situation we're put in. I don't know if I have anything else to contribute. I just gotta wait till tomorrow. So seriously, this time, I want to get new parts, and when I get it back together, we're gonna start it up and go from there. I don't think we need to see me getting new parts, but just trust me, we're gonna get new stuff. See you tomorrow. All right, it's the next day. I do have my new wires in the back installed. I had a warranty on these, but the spark plugs I had to repurchase. The warranty expired on those. So we got brand new wires. We got new spark plugs in the bank, the rear bank. I got all the miscellaneous stuff connected that I pulled off. Only thing left is to start it up. I don't have my scan tool. It died, so I'm gonna let it charge up. In the meantime, the main thing I need to see if it still has that surging episode when I initially start up, and then I can just let it run, go back, check my scan tool while it's running, and see if the misfires are resolved. So let's start up. And I'm hoping that I got the timing right. I would screw something up simple. So once if it backfires, then I know why. Yeah, more than likely I done screwed up one of the wires. I don't know why. I literally followed the directions on the coils. 135. So let me see what I did wrong and correct that. Yeah, I got 3 and 5 crossed up. No big deal. It should be 3 and 5 right there. So just gonna get them in there first, and then I'll get it started. What's funny is I like double check myself, and I screwed up double checking. So let's see if it gets resolved now. That is way better. That is like 10 times better than what it was before. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get my wire straightened out, because like I said, I screw up. So I'm gonna get these wires straight, let it cool down, do another crank, and see how it responds, and then do my test drive. I know I said I was going to check misfire information, but the main thing is that surge that it was having initially. So that's what I was looking for to be resolved. I know if I got that resolved, then the misfire is going to be resolved. But I'll be back with an update after I do let it sit for a little bit, do another startup, another cold startup, and take it on test drive, and I'll give you an update. All right, not supported by the ECU. I'm gonna do a startup again. I have to use a spare tool. That says the MK808, MP808. I got the codes erased. Let's go to live data. We're gonna go right down the misfire counter. That's the only thing downside with that MK. It dies and it takes a while. It takes a while to start up, to boot up because of the battery. All right, let's see what happens. All right, in reverse. Oh yeah. Do we still have a misfire? Still has a little surge. And drive. I mean, you can kind of expect a misfire here or there, but I mean, it's not populating on 5 like it was before. What I'm gonna do, because it is a little better, take it on a test drive and see how it responds. Then I'll give it a couple hours, let it sit, see if it does anything different. But I'm gonna leave it like it is and take it on drive, see what happens. All right, I'm partially through a test drive here. I got about 12-15 miles on it, and the only misfire that came up was on cylinder 1, It was fine while driving, and it seems to be a little bit more prevalent when it's stationary and idle, which is really starting to look like a bad valve. And I don't know if you remember, look at it, it's still populating. I don't know if you remember the Acura I did where the valve would rotate and spin on the exhaust side, and that is what caused a misfire. And it's still populating on number 1. I'm gonna put a little gas in here and continue to drive it and see what happens. And if I come across anything, I'll definitely think of something. Like I may have to swap the injector over to a different bank to see what happens. Something, but the fuel trims are fine. I really think it's probably going to wind up being just upper valve train related because of the age of the engine. So I'm still stationary at the gas station, just pump some gas in it. One thing I want to add, the misfire is still populating on cylinder 1 and 3 and 5, so the odd bank still, but it's not as aggressive as it was before. The long-term fuel trims are perfectly fine. They're not out of the ordinary. See on bank 2, they're very close to 0. They're not out of whack, especially on bank 1. -4 is taking away 4%, which is not anything to be worried about. I really think that we're going to have probably cylinder head issues, and it's really leaning towards that, like a valve problem just on that bank. I don't think it's going to be anything related to cam, like a cam sensor or a crank position sensor, or even the crank trigger wheel, simply because the misfire is not aggressive and it's just very intermittent, and it's still just favoring 1, 3, and 5. I mean, what are the odds of the trigger wheel points for cylinder 1, 3, and 5 being bad on the trigger wheel? I really don't think that's going to be the problem. Timing belt, I mean, if I just put a new belt on here, I just don't think that's going to be a timing belt problem. Like, the time is going to be off, causing this. I hit another, I want to say 10 miles or so test drive, and just got back. Just to provide an update. Here's our long-term fuel trims on bank 1. Right here is -8, -1.8, which is very close to 0. They're excellent, actually. This is just about as good as it gets when it comes to fuel trims. And since I've started up and left the gas station, got on the highway driving is perfectly fine. It's only when I'm stationary, the misfire counter will start to populate, just like now. And as I've just been thinking on the way back, even under a hard acceleration, nothing happens. It responds excellently. No misfire, no hesitation. Even right now at IS stationary, I can do a snap throttle perfectly fine. It's just when it's idling and stationary, it'll populate. So my only assumption, what I got going on with this is, this is just going to probably have to be attributed to this engine's age. I mean, it has 213,000 miles on it, and tight valves can do it, loose valves can do it. I mean, but there's no ticking noise. You heard it early on, but that didn't cause the misfire counter to populate when it was ticking, when it had lifter tick. Valves that are tight can do that, and again, because of the mileage, I would like to potentially assume that this may be just valve related. And let me tell you, there's another test here. I can actually test the timing belt. There's a timing belt test here. I did that because I'm like, well, what if the timing is off? And will it cause any problems? Now, you can read this yourself here, but basically what these numbers need to be, the cam and the crank, rising and falling edge needs to be within 1 to 3 teeth, the range value with what they're providing here. And if I check them out, they're right at 3. So 98 plus 3, you get 101. 3 plus 38, you get 41. So I mean, there's no problem here. And again, we don't have any check engine light codes for crank position or timing over advance or anything. So I mean, I'm not going to be hyper focused on that. Let me show you. But the codes, no codes present. It's not aggressive. Fuel trims are great. Misfire counter does populate periodically. It's not populating rapidly, and just like yesterday, it needed to populate rapidly for the check engine light to start flashing to indicate a problem, and it was very notable. I mean, this is not notable at all. I mean, it just runs smooth. And to be honest, in conclusion, I mean, if the algorithm for this vehicle is satisfied, I'm going to have to be satisfied with it until it really starts to pose a problem and the customer is saying, hey, look, this is misfiring. Can we really get down to it? But the car would have to be dissatisfied with its running conditions. It's satisfied now. Everything is all on one bank, which is that rear bank. Now it's a possibility the misfire information could be inaccurate, but I was focused on the rear bank. When the misfire was aggressive, it was populating 5 rapidly, fixed 5, and now it's stabilized for the most part, but still populating. So I don't want to chase my ass on this. If the misfire counter doesn't detect any rapidly populating PIDs, or doesn't detect any rapidly populating, it doesn't see any values that are just taking off. I mean, I don't want to sit there and just like keep chasing it. I mean, I could sit there and test everything from the crank position sensor to I did test the fuel injectors, looked at the waveforms for the amp value, the current draw. They were fine. I didn't see any type of discrepancies with those. Pulled the plugs and replaced the plugs and the wires, and it did need it. I mean, you see how bad it was, and it wound up fixing that problem. Fuel trims are perfect. That's what really bothers me. I don't suspect anything with the crank position sensor, because it would just be strange for it to only cause 1, 3, and 5 teeth, the trigger wheels for those, to be a problem. And I doubt that. It's usually going to be 1 tooth that's messed up if you have to scope that. That's rare. So I'm going to let this ride out, no pun intended. And if it comes back with a misfire issue and I do need to do a little bit more investigating, I'll definitely update it. But I'm going to have to conclude this one just to put this on hold. I'm just going to have to quarantine this particular problem. And I want to say there is some sort of resolution. I mean, the soapy water did help enhance that misfire. I did replace the parts that was needed, got that resolved, and here we are. So I'll see how it responds next startup or tomorrow morning, and if anything changes outside of the ordinary what we experience currently, then I'll update. If not, then I'm just going to kind of let it stay the same. I don't think I have anything else to contribute to this, but hey, I'm all for feedback. If anybody has anything that they probably went through with this, but at the moment, I just think this is just valve related, upper valve train, the valves, and is due to age. So, but hey, if anything happened, I'll definitely update. But hit the link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, had a research some more work, and I'll see you on the next one. It's another day. I think it's like day 4 of screwing with this car. I'm just trying to formulate a game plan. I just can't let this slide. So, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna see if it's a fuel problem. I'm gonna start off by saturating the intake with brake cleaner, and maybe if it is a fuel problem, then it's not gonna stall. This is a cold start currently. Oh shit! Oh gosh. It's gonna shoot the air filter with it, and that should continue giving it some gradual fuel while I start it up, and we'll see how it responds. That's a no-go. It still kind of did it. And one thing that screwed me up, the thing that messes me up with this car is like it only does it on a cold start. Like the back, it smoked out the back, which is a thing. Why is it smoking out the back? Could this have valve train problems? Like remember when I pulled the plugs out the back, they were fouled. We can pull the plugs out from the front and inspect those because those were brand new. I still got the old plugs. I wonder if oil's dripping down in the cylinders and it's getting on the plugs, and that's what's causing that initial surge during startup. And it just could be on that rear bank. I really just think it's something on that back bank. I think it's just valve related, and I think we probably still need to put valve seals in here. 213,000 miles. So putting supplement of fuel in there didn't work on the spray on the air filter. I mean, it should have been able to take the fumes and do something with it for the brake cleaner. Only other thing I'm gonna do, and I think this is just probably the last thing, take the injectors, swap those from the rear bank to the front bank, and then pull. Maybe I have to do a cylinder leak down test on number 1. Inspect the valve with the camera a little better. But I don't know any other thing I could do right now that's going to help resolve this problem besides like swapping the injectors. That'll answer a lot of questions. I don't think this is mass airflow related because all the other cylinders aren't affected. There's no extreme fuel trims. I just don't want to, again, I don't want to chase my ass. Why is it that I have to let it warm up for it to work? I just really think that it's valve related. When it's cold, it doesn't work well until the metal expands and starts to work a lot more efficient. But I mean, I could be wrong. But I just don't think it's fuel trim related. Not fuel trim, but fuel injector related. Correct me if I'm wrong. Fuel trims need to be out of whack for this to happen. But what if it's a dirty injector? If the fuel is working on 3 and 5 and not as well on 1, could that cause our problems in the back? Like it's not squirting efficiently, but we still have normal fuel trims. But remember, like before I cleaned the mass airflow sensor, the fuel trims were negative 13. So on that bank, so it could be something up with that fuel rail. Could be something up with the fuel injectors. That's why I say it's probably worth just pulling those injectors out and swapping them, inspecting them. That's the only thing I can really do right now, because it's throwing me for a loop, man. And I guess until I couldn't sleep last night, and until I swap those injectors, then I'm not going to know anything else. So let me pull this down again, take those injectors and swap them with another bank. My camera off, but look at that. Let's say, and this is, even though the leak down test is not showing anything, you know, like it's matching 1-to-1. The valves are, the valve seals. I said valve seals. The valve seats and the valves themselves are leaking, just bubbling away, and it holds water at the top. I mean, so just imagine when the compression goes higher, what is it doing? I don't think it's worth me swapping the injectors out, especially when I have like valve seating issue and it's leaking. I don't think it's timing. I don't think it's anything else besides the fact that it's just the age, you know. The engine's just worn out and old. If I got water sitting on top, like the fuel, it's capable of sitting on top, but once you start adding pressure, it's maybe watertight, but it's not, definitely not airtight. And what could be happening, you know, maybe the fuel and oil drip down through those valves and then gets into the combustion chamber and causes problems during initial startup. Could be that, in combination with low compression in the morning when things are contracted and not holding compression well. Right now it's morning. I mean, this is the first startup, and I didn't let it run long. Just the engine's very cold, and once it warms up, the metal will expand and has a better ability to seat. So I think this is what we got going on. I'm not going to swap the injectors because fuel trims, and it's just, I know for a fact I'll be chasing my ass if I do that. So I'm gonna leave those alone and just let the customer know, you know, we got just a worn engine. Just gonna have to let it warm up before you start pulling off and driving. So this is my findings.